What's up, everybody? How are y'all doing? I'm gonna hang tight real quick, see who joins, and then we'll get rolling from there. Looking forward to tonight, looking forward to having some fun, looking forward to the next 30 minutes or so. For those who, what's up, bro? How you doing, sir? You have to give me a hands up. Let me know that you can hear me. Everything sounds good on your end. I know I don't necessarily sound the greatest, but that has to do with the fact that I've got a little bit of a cold I'm coming off of. So, but good to see you, sir. Good to see you. See who else joins here in a little bit, and then I'm gonna get rolling. How's everything been your way? Excited, bro. Excited. Keep reminding myself I'm gonna have to hit record on my actual podcast stuff. So I'm gonna get like halfway through this and then be like, oh, I didn't. And then have an issue and have to come back and record it. Let's see here. Dude, I am stoked. Like, I will get into it, but I am like stoked, bro. Yeah, I'm excited to get back into it. It's been way too long. Like trying to like get all this taken care of and getting back into the saddle. Like it's been a minute. What's up? It's my SNL. But yeah, I'm excited, man. It felt good. We got an interview done the other night, and it was a lot of fun. Just, just like actually getting involved and doing it, man. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. So I'm excited. Very much so excited. Cool. Let's see here. I am 9:05. I think I'm going to hit record and jump in. I'll say this now and then I'll say it later too. But if y'all have questions, you throw them in there, and then I will go through all of that at the end. Can y'all hear the music at all? Or is it like super faint, or can you hear it at all? How's it going? Thanks for joining. We're about to kick off here in a moment. Cool. All right, so we're about to kick off, and I'm hitting record. And welcome everybody to Apostolic Encounter. I am excited to be back in the saddle. This is something that I have been missing a lot. It's been 4 years since we actually had a podcast going, and it's like yeah, there's been so much that's happened, and we'll talk about that tonight. So the goal of this podcast, or this episode of the podcast, is to just kind of go over what the vision is for the podcast, what my goal is for the podcast, and then also go over the history of what we did, bring up some names and stuff, and then kind of introduce myself for those who don't really know me, who are going to listen to this podcast. Introduce myself. My name is Jonathan Gray. I am a husband of one, father of four, and I'll let you kind of figure out what that means. And then, and then I'm the assistant pastor at the church I attend, Calvary Tabernacle, here in Rice, Virginia. And then also, I am a store manager, an author, own my own clothing design, just a bunch of other stuff. So, needless to say, thanks to everybody who's joining in, and, everybody who's hopping on. Good to see you. So tonight, just real big, just starting off with the intro. So Apostolic Encounter, the podcast, was started about 4 years ago. And, I started it because growing up, I grew up, very much so on, talk radio. That was the big thing in my house growing up, was talk radio. And so I grew up listening to, whether you agree with their politics or not, but I grew up listening to Sean Hannity and Rush Limbaugh a lot. And so hearing people like that, people on NPR talk, I like to hear that, and always listen to Rush Limbaugh talk about being behind the golden EIB microphone. And so it was kind of in me, but I didn't know that was a thing that you could do, and I didn't want to go start a radio show. So but needless to say, about 4 years ago, I realized that podcasting was something that was possible. I came across a YouTube, thank God for YouTube, right? I came across a YouTube channel, and they were talking about how easy it was to start a podcast. And I was like, that would be really cool. Because the other thing that I loved was being able to sit down and listen to pastors and elders and a bunch of other people have conversation and be able to talk. And I loved listening to conversations that changed my life. People having conversations about what God was doing, or about finance, or about just life in general, things that I was very curious about. And so 4 years ago, I started the podcast, and we did about 8 episodes. There's a little bit more than that, but as far as solid episodes, we did about 8 episodes. And then life kind of took over, and a lot of things that I thought were going to be solid were not. And God kind of took us through a moment of growth and humbling and a bunch of other things. And what's up to everybody who's joining? And for those who are on the podcast and listening only, we're doing this live on Instagram. So when you hear me say what's up on the podcast, that's who I'm talking to, is the people on my gram. So, so about 4 years ago, life kind of flipped on its head. Me and my wife went from being homeowners to not being homeowners, and a long journey ensued. And a lot of things have changed. A lot of things have grown. I've grown a lot. I've been able to understand support of family and pastor and church a lot different. But so for me, growing up, my history, I grew up military. My father was in the Army. That's actually how I know my wife's family, is because my parents knew her family. So, but I grew up military, grew up mostly in Kentucky, under the pastoralship of Bishop Adams. And that was where I learned a lot. And that's actually, we'll talk about it, but I've got probably 11 different topics over the next 11 months that we're going to talk about. Because the goal of doing all this is to really dive into some deep topics. But anyway, so I grew up under Pastor Adams, and I miss Bishop. I know he's no longer around, but I miss Bishop, and I miss his voice. I miss his wisdom. Even though I haven't been there in probably 13 years, I still sometimes hear that voice in my head as he called me Big J, or when he was preaching and God would move, and that vibe he had. And but yeah, I grew up under him, some other pastors, and then moved to Missouri about 13 years ago. And my wife and I started dating about 11 years ago. I'm trying to make sure I calculate all these things in my head. So about 11 years ago, my wife and I started dating. We've known each other like our whole lives, like legit our whole lives. My sister-in-law or sister-in-love likes to make jokes that she was the one who put us together, and that she was the one who kept on saying that it was going to happen. And we'll just let her believe what she wants to believe. But my wife and I started dating. We had been best friends, talked about people we were dating, talked about people that we liked, talked about all sorts of other things. And just one day woke up and I was like, I don't want to be without my best friend. And so I talked to her, and there's a story there. When I told her what I was feeling, I wasn't sure what the response was going to be, but it ended up being silence for a minute. I apparently caught her off guard. And she spoke it into existence. But anyway, so we dated for about a year and a half, proposed. I moved out to Virginia, and the rest is kind of history. We now have 4 children. We have 4 children, and it's like life is so much different now, and especially from there to now. But in the past 4 years to now, a lot of things have changed for us. We were not assistant pastors last time. We were actually youth pastors at the time, and trying to figure out all of that and how that works. And so, some of the conversations I had were around that on the podcast. And you used to go check out the older episodes. We've been posting them, kind of anticipating today and launching this podcast, or relaunching, rebranding Apostolic Encounter. So now we're here. I am like super, super, super stoked about what we're going to do. The goal of the podcast, my dream for this podcast, I don't know how long it's going to be around, but my goal, what's up? My goal for this is really to touch as many people as we can with the conversations we're going to have. This coming January, we're going to talk about authenticity in our walk with God. Not necessarily authenticity in like prayer and things like that, but how do we stay authentic to who God's called us to be when we're dealing with a lot of different things. And so so I've got some guests that are lined up. We just finished an interview this week with Sister Jamie out of Nova, and that interview I'm stoked for y'all to hear. I don't know who all has talked to Sister Jamie before, Jamie Smith out of Nova Church, but she is she's an absolute beast when it comes to the Word of God and understanding context, and just like, it's amazing talking to her. So you get to hear some of that, and I'm super excited for that. And then I have 2 other guests that we have not recorded, so I'm not going to say who they are. I will announce them towards the end of December once we've done the recording, and it's solidified, because that cannot happen. So what's up, Zach? But anyway, so the big thing with the podcast is to have conversations that I really want to have. It's not about trying to fix a certain agenda or push a certain thing. This is not going to be a political podcast. This is not going to be a podcast where, I'm trying to push an agenda or anything like that. I want God to be glorified, if you want to call that an agenda. Yeah, I want God to be glorified. I want people to listen to the podcast, walk away and go, okay, I've been changed, I've been challenged, because that's what I enjoy about a podcast. I enjoy listening to one. I just heard one this week, actually. I'll shout it out because it's just a good one. The Secret to Success podcast is an absolute killer podcast about just growing up and being, who God made you to be, but like having some real conversation. And one of the quotes from the one I was listening to this week, they had a lady on it. She said, and it hit me, was she said, you're not, God had to tell her that you're not humble, you're hiding. And I had to look at my life and go, that's actually probably very true for where I am, that I am doing a lot of hiding. And how many of us are hiding talents, hiding gifts, and we're saying we're humble. We're not really humble. We're just hiding. And so part of this is breaking out of that and becoming more of what God's called me to be and doing what God's called me to do. So with that, being said, yeah, the goal of podcast is to really just have conversations with people and introduce topics that I really want to talk about and things that I feel like are very vital, things that kind of pique my interest and, kind of cause me to take a step back and look at things. Hey, what's up? And I really want this to be somewhere where people can go and get informed on things. And I don't want it to be like the traditional, like we're interviewing preachers about preaching. And I want it to be like things that, again, cause me to kind of take a step back. So I'm going to go over some things that I've written down about what I will be talking about over the next couple. Sorry, seeing messages pop up. What I will be talking about over the next several months. So we'll be talking about being authentic, dealing with the struggle of becoming what God has put in you to be, and how that can really affect us. God's sovereignty, our responsibility, just looking at, there's things that God does, there's doors that God opens. And the goal is really to see what we're responsible for, what God does, but what we're responsible for, right? Treasure series, that one is going to be mainly me talking. I don't know if we'll have any guests on that one, but I really just want to take time to reflect over what God has done. There's a conversation I had during men's conference this past year with a gentleman who was talking about some things that he did not grow up with. And in that conversation, I realized there was a lot of things that God's blessed me to know and understand. And so I kind of wanted to make sure I have that kind of topic of just being grateful, because sometimes we don't realize, even just being in church, how much staying helps, how much staying causes us to be an example to somebody else. The will of God, the call of God. And then I wanted to spend some time sometime next year talking about my regrets. Things that I wish I'd either not partaken in, or things that I wish I had done. And not from the standpoint of just having a mope session or a woe was me session, but really just diving in and maybe helping somebody realize there's some things you maybe want to navigate around. There's some things you definitely want to navigate around, but then there's some things that you want to take advantage of when you have it. Finances, just because that's been something that in my life has been a struggle. Not having money, but taking a while to learn how to deal with it, if that makes sense. Talking about dreams, I know for me, life had a way of just knocking my dreams out, of causing me to forget what God had called me to do, And then longevity, that one I want to talk to a bunch of elders. So this is what I would ask. If you have people in your church who have been walking with God longer than 20 years and they don't mind doing an interview, I would love to talk to them. The reason being is because we forget, I think sometimes that's a treasure for us, is our elders. And we forget, if they've been walking with God 20, 30, 40, 50 years, that they know a whole lot that can help us stay walking with God, stay married, stay financially independent, be what we're supposed to be. And so if you have somebody who is in your church and you're like, hey, that person would be an amazing person to talk to, I would love to talk to that person. The progression series, and then just kind of talking about what each pastor has taught me. Someone shot me a question. Let me get back to it real quick. Let's see. Have you been able to keep doing what you love in your personal life after getting married and having kids? So this is very interesting because actually, for the beautiful beauty, so I didn't really discover what I really loved doing until after I got married. So there's things I enjoy doing, right? So I like playing music. I like playing drums. I like playing guitar. I like listening to stories. I like playing sports sometimes. But as far as this, I didn't discover this until after I got married and my wife and I believe, had our first child. I just recently wrote a book, shameless plug, but I just recently wrote a book, and I didn't realize I wanted to write a book until last year. So like there are things that I'm learning that I love to do that I haven't discovered until I got married. So I have to be creative with it because I can't just get up and go, right? Especially having 4 kids. I can't just get up and do. I can't be like, oh yeah, I'm just going to do this. So early mornings are a big thing for me. During the week, it's, there's a couple of days a week I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, because if I don't get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, then I'm not going to, it's not going to happen. I don't really like staying up late anymore. I used to be a person who could stay up late, and I don't do that anymore. So, but yeah, I'm discovering that there's things that I love to do or I enjoy doing, but I'm finding it out as life goes. So I'm trying to find ways to build it into life. So like right now, my kids are in bed. I'm podcasting because my kids are not up. They're not, well, they might be up. I'm not home at the moment, but they might be up, running around. But it's not, it's not just get up and go. It's really just trying to find a groove, find what works for you. I think for people who already have things going on, there's examples of people who had things happening pre-marriage. So like either being an artist or being an author or being a podcaster or whatever. And when the person gets married, that person knows, hey, you're marrying somebody who is already involved in a lot of different things. And so that's already kind of built into their life. So that scheduling is kind of already built there. But yeah, you kind of just make it work. So I hope that answers your question. Going through, let's see here. See if there's anything else. Let's see here. Let's see. Sorry for the dead space on the podcast. I'll cut all that out. But yeah. So yeah, that's the goal of the podcast, is really just to take this and then just launch it, and do everything we can. You can connect obviously on here. I'm on Instagram. We have a website, effectualclothing.com. You can come check us out there, connect with us there. We've got a blog, just a lot of different things that we're doing. So we're trying to make sure we get it all rolled out. Let's see. How grateful are you for your sister-in-law? I'm very grateful for my sister-in-law. Yes, very grateful. For those who you do not know, Ashley has kind of turned into our living nanny, for a little bit, just because Candace wasn't doing well, and, me being at work and doing different things, and Candace was in the hospital for a little bit. So very thankful for my family in general, them stepping in and just being a part, because a lot of things that would not have happened, or would have been happened a lot differently if it had not been for her. So, in the family. Who asked that? I'm pretty sure that was my sister-in-law who asked that, but whatever. Let's see. Trying to see if there's anything that I have missed I wanted to talk about today. So yeah, I'm just excited. There are people that you want, if you want me to talk to, definitely shoot me their info. Be like, hey, can you get this person on the podcast? I think this person will be able to add, some value. I don't want to just bring people on just because. I don't want to just grab somebody because they have a name. I really I have found that oftentimes the people that I talk to who have either not ever been in a pulpit or have never been in the public eye have a lot to offer. And it's just really discovering what's inside, discovering what they've got going on, and having those conversations. People that even are in the public eye, but you don't know necessarily what they really bring to the table, so. But yeah, so I'm looking forward, like I said, I'm really looking forward to all this. I am super excited. I am stoked. I am whatever adjectives you want to use, about this, and I'm looking forward to it. So, Yeah, I think, as I'm looking at bringing this to a close, I really wanted to say thank you for those who joined. Thanks for those who hopped on. It's not a heavy episode. Literally, this is just introduction, and then we're just going to roll from here and go, and see what God does with it. I would ask, as we do the episodes, if you find the episodes to be helpful, if you know people who would enjoy them, share them. They're going to be on the platforms, so they're going to be on Stitcher. They're going to be on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast. They're going to be on all those platforms. So if you know somebody who likes podcasts, looking for something that is, there's so many to choose from. But I would appreciate it, and I would deeply say thank you if you share the podcast as we roll. And then definitely check us out. Like I said, wrote a book, Managing Our Talents. That is available on Amazon. So if you want to check that out, it's on there on Kindle and paperback. And then we've got a clothing line, Effectual Clothing, if you want to check that out as well. Effectualclothing.com. So we go for all of that fun stuff. So for everybody who is still on, I want to say thank you. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for joining me tonight. And this podcast, this episode will be launching tomorrow. And we'll get this kicked off and rolling, and we're just going to rock from here. I will not probably be live next week. I might be. We'll see. But we'll have another episode coming out Saturday. And my plan is to build all that up. And then January, we launch with the interviews and all that fun stuff, talking about being authentic in our walk with God, who God's called us to be. So I appreciate you guys coming and joining and hopping on. God bless you guys. If I don't see any more questions, she gives herself enough props on the back, just saying. But yeah, I appreciate you guys joining, and I will talk to y'all later. God bless.